Okay, so we were done with the three steps that was about the mechanism of food digestion. Now let's move toward the fourth step, that is swallowing. So swallowing process is also called the deglutition. So what does it mean? It means that we are intaking the food, or you can say that we are engulf the food, or you can say that a substance is passing from our mouth, that is called the swallowing. Okay, so in the human body this is a process. Okay, and in mammals as well, and in every animal. So in human we are having the three stages, that is the oral stage. Okay, second is the pharyngeal stage. Okay, and third one is the esophageal stage. So one by one we'll be talking about each of them. So first of all, let me tell you that oral stage is voluntary. Okay, means that it is on our will. Okay, so that we have to in to take the food, or you can say if we don't like the food, so we can easily spit it out. So that is voluntary, that is on our will. If you're talking about these both, so these both are involuntary, and these are not in our will. Okay, so if you're talking about the oral stage, so oral stage, what does it mean? It is the stage of the swallowing, and in oral stage the bolus get prepared. Okay, the bolus get prepared. Okay, so the bolus get prepared, and in the oral stage the main work of the, or you can say like the main role in our oral cavity, that is of the tongue is having a, you can say that, a main role in our oral cavity. So as you can see that we are having a, we are, for example, this is a tongue, this is a mid part and this is the front part. Okay, so here we can see that we are having muscles of the tongue, that is the mylohyoid, that is the muscle which work in speaking, swallowing, and you can say that it is present in the mandible jaw, you can say that the lower jaw. Okay, so these muscles are for the contracting and the relaxation. Okay, so this muscles get folding, or you can say that these muscles get fold or contract, and you can say that the bolus push into the pharynx. Okay, the bolus will be moving into the pharynx. As you guys all know, what is pharynx? Pharynx is a space where, through where the food passes. Okay, so you can say that when we push the food into the pharynx, so a pressure is generated on the hard palate. A pressure got generates on the hard palate. Okay, and you can say that the from the bolus from oral cavity will be moving into the pharyngeal. Okay, so our mouth will get, you can say that, close, of course. So a bolus is now in the pharynx. Okay, the hard pressure is generated on the hard palate and the bolus is now in the pharynx. So next stage is the pharyngeal stage. So next stage we'll be talking about the pharyngeal stage. First of all, we have to talk about the nerves. They are important nerves in the oral cavity, that is the danioglossal, hypoglossal, okay, and styloglossal, platoglossal. Okay, so these uh, you can say that this is controlled by the 10th nerve or cranial nerve, or you can say the vagus nerve. Okay, so you can say that. And if you're talking about this, so these are controlled by the 12th cranial nerve, 12th cranial nerve, or you can say the glossal pharyngeal nerve. Okay, so these are the nerve that is control these all. Okay, so hypoglossal is you can say that that is a nerve, and that these are the muscles. Okay, so that have an important role in the oral stage, and these all are controlled by the different nerve, 12th nerve, cranial nerve, and this is the vagus nerve. Okay, so if you're talking about the vagus nerve, so vagus nerve is having a important function, or you can say that the vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve. The vagus nerve is a longest cranial nerve among all. Okay, now let's move toward the pharyngeal stage. Okay, so if you're talking about the pharyngeal stage, so pharyngeal stage, now as you guys see that the bolus is now in the pharynx. Okay, in the pharynx. So the bolus is now in the pharynx, and in the pharynx the impulse will be generating. Okay, and this will detect by the receptor. Okay, the receptor that is having a pharyngeal opening. So there is a receptor, so the receptor will be of the bolus, and the stimuli of the bolus will be, you can say that that will be having a stimuli of the bolus, that the bolus is now in the pharynx. Okay, so this is basically the impulse is generated by the receptor of the, and you can say the stimuli of the bolus. Okay, now the pharyngeal opening is basically a supreme level of sensitivity. How? Let's see that because of the tonsils ring, that was the Waldeyer ring, tonsils ring, so that tonsil ring detect the bolus actually. Okay, so they are in pharyngeal opening, they are the work of the nerve, that is, you can say that is the fifth nerve, that was the trigeminal nerve, and you can say that the 12th nerve. Okay, so these both are having they are, you can say that they will convey the sensory nerve, and the sensory nerve will generate a nerve impulse, and this nerve impulse will be moving into the swallowing center, that the bolus is now in the pharynx. Swallowing center, what is swallowing center? And swallowing center is a center, you can say that, on the brain stem, that is the medulla and bones are present. Okay, so these medulla and bones will be first moving to the this receptor, you can say that this impulse will moving through the sensory nerve. Okay, and the sensory nerve will be getting the impulse to the swallowing center, that is medulla and pons, that is in the brain stem. And this brain stem, first of all, after medulla and pons, the sensory nerve will be giving the impulse to the hypothalamus. First of all this nerve impulse will moving into the hypothalamus, then to the medulla and pons. Okay, so after that is the nerve impulse is generated. Now we are having a motor nerve. So as you guys all know that the function of the motor nerve is to command or the effector, and here the effector will be muscles of the all muscle like tongue, pharynx, esophagus as well all. So this motor nerve will be getting the neurons from fifth cranial nerve, ninth, 10th, 12th. Okay, So here you can see that this is a process that will, you can say that, done in 2 seconds just. That the sensory neuron will sensory now will be giving the nerve impulse to the brain stem, and the brain stem will be, you can say that, the motor neuron will be having a command, or the muscle that have to work. That muscle can be the tongue muscle, esophagus, and pharynx as well, all muscles. Okay, effector can be muscle and gland, but here we are talking about the muscles especially. So here you can see that this is the process that is done in just 2 seconds, just in 2 seconds. Okay, so here the pressure got generated. Okay, so first of all, that here is a mouth. Okay, mouth of a person, and here you can see that after the tongue there is a uvula is present. Okay, before the you can say the posterior of the soft palate. So a pressure is generated on the hard palate, and the bolus will move down. When the bolus move down, the uvula will be, okay, got as extend, and this uvula will stop the, or you can say the block the nasal cavity. Through the result, the nasal cavity will be got closed or blocked. Okay, so through that there is a negative inhibition of the respiratory center, that the breathing will stop for a second, just for a second. When the uvula got extend and they will close the nasal cavity, then that when the food is going down, so through that, the if air will be moving down, so that will be having a problem. So uvula got extend and they will stop the, or you can say they will block the nasal cavity for just 2 seconds. Through this, a negative inhibition of the respiratory center got occurs, and through this the bolus will move into the esophagus. Okay, and you can say that the trachea is having a, first of all, covering, that is the glottis, and after glottis there is the epiglottis. So epiglottis will be having a this is a cartilage, something like that, and that will be cover the trachea, that is windpipe. Why? Because not when the food will be moving into the trachea, so that will be having a problem, because this is a windpipe. Okay, so the food will move into the esophagus, that is the food pipe. So the trachea, when the food is coming down to the esophagus, so the epiglottis will close the trachea, that through that the food will not go into the trachea. Okay, so the food will easily go into the esophagus, and through this, the here the larynx that will be move upward. Okay, they'll be moving anteriorly and move upward, and you can say that the epiglottis got close to the trachea. Okay, so through this, the esophagus is now in the pharyngeal stage. Okay, so first, one thing is that we are having a pharynx. There is a pharynx stage. Okay, so if you're talking about this, so here something, there is a pharyngeal wall is present in there. There is pharyngeal wall. Okay, so here the bolus will go into the pharynx. So the folding in posteriorly, there is the folding of the, you can say, the pharyngeal wall. There is the folding. The folding name is the phalangeal, and these are wider. These are wider. Okay, this the phalangeal folds is having a work for the stretching of the food. When that the food will not go in anterior mouth again. Like if a food is coming from the pharynx, so this is having a this wall is having a work, that if a food is coming downward, so this wall is having a work that the food will not move again upward or anteriorly. Okay, so this is having a work that the food will not go anterior mouth again. Okay, so this when the bolus is coming downward to the pharynx, they basically got, you can say that they basically got constrict and they become like this. First of all, when the bolus was not there, they were relaxed. But when the bolus is coming down, they got contract, and they get narrow. That because the food is coming, the food will not get anteriorly. Because of this, they got contract. Okay, so as you guys all know, the larynx is covered by the vocal cords, and vocal cords also get, you can say that, stretch when the negative inhibition generate, and the you can say that the negative inhibition generate, and the breathing will stop for the 2 seconds. So when the breathing will stop for the 2 seconds, the larynx vocal cords also get stretched, and the negative when the negative inhibition get occurs. Okay, so now let's move toward the esophagus stage. Now from the buccal cavity, the bolus is moved from the pharyngeal stage. Now from pharyngeal, the bolus is now in the esophagus stage. That is esophagus stage. So what is esophagus? Esophagus means the food pipe. Food pipe. Okay, so this is the food pipe. Okay, so first of all, let me tell you about the peristalsis. What is peristalsis? Peristalsis is the movement, or you can say the pushing of the bolus. Okay, or you can say that this is the peristalsis movement is the movement. Okay, so through this the pressure got generated to the bolus, and bolus will move downward. Okay, or you can say that the peristalsis movement is basically you can say that the peristalsis movement is a movement that push the bolus down. Okay, so if you're talking about this, so the if you're talking about the through which part of our body the peristalsis movement got start, so the peristalsis got start from the pharynx. Okay, pharynx, and you can say that the we are having a, this is esophagus. Okay, so here we are having a superior, you can say that this is a longitudinal muscle. Okay, and this is the circular muscle. As you guys all know that the esophagus is having a the muscles. Okay, so they are having a, not esophagus having, pharynx is having a muscle, but we are having a constrictors sphincters of the, you can say that the sphincters of the esophagus. So the sphincter is having a big role in the esophagus, the lower sphincter and the upper sphincter. Okay, so if you're talking about the esophagus, first of all, for that let me explain you one thing, that is that there is as you guys all know that the swallowing center is the medulla and oblongata and the pons. Medulla oblongata and pons. Okay, so these are the, so the dorsal vagal will having, dorsal vagal nerve is having a main work here. So the dorsal vagal nerve is having for that the dorsal vagal have work to contract the superior esophageal sphincter. There is a superior sphincter and the lower sphincter. So superior sphincter will get contract. Usually it get contract when the bolus is not in the esophagus. So this is a contraction is why? Because of the dorsal vagal nerve. And when the bolus is coming down from pharynx, so the sensory neuron will generate impulse, and the neuron, as you guys all know, will go into the brainstem, into the medulla oblongata and pons. And the medulla oblongata will be giving instruction to the motor neuron, and motor neuron will be give the command to this sphincter, and this sphincter got relaxed. This sphincter got relaxed when bolus is in the esophagus, and usually it got contracted when the bolus is not in the esophagus. Okay, so they are the peristalsis movement is basically the contraction and relaxation, and this is controlled by the vagus nerve, as you guys all know. So the vagus nerve is having a control to the peristalsis movement. As you guys all know, I told you that this is the circular. Okay, so what is peristalsis? Let me tell you again. That is you can see the wave like propulsion, or you can say that this is involuntary. Okay, this is involuntary. This is not an R will, and this is controlled by the autonomic nervous system, as you guys all know. Okay, so we are having a muscles in the, you can say that, in the esophagus, so, and sphincter as well. So this is a proximal part, upper part, you can say. This is the distal part, or you can say the downward part. Okay, so when the food is inside a esophagus, so first of all the superior sphincter got relaxed when the food is coming. Okay, so this has got relaxed, and you can say the circular muscle got contract, and the outer, that is the longitudinal muscle, got relaxed. Okay, and you can say the bolus is now here. So bolus is now here, and you can say the bolus, the backside of the, you can say that the backside of the bolus, there is a contraction of the longitudinal muscles. Okay, and and you can say that the circular got relaxed and longitudinal got contract. Through this, the peristalsis will occur. Let me explain you again. That is the esophagus, and there is a circular muscle, and there is a longitudinal muscle. So the circular muscle got relaxed, and outward longitudinal muscle got contract. Okay, got contract. Okay, so the repetition will occur in the esophagus. When the bolus is now in the downward, then the circular muscle got contract and longitudinal muscle got relaxed. When the bolus is now downward more, so then the circular muscle got relaxed again, and the longitudinal muscle got contract. So this will the repetition. Through this, the peristalsis will occur. Peristalsis movement will occur, and through this, the bolus will get downward. The sphincter that got relaxed when the bolus got inside, and now the bolus is now downward, they get again constrict. Okay, so, and we are having a lower sphincter that was constrict, that will also get relaxed when the bolus is coming downward, and this inferior constrictor, we are also saying that the cardiac constrictor, or you can say that the lower esophageal sphincter. Okay, so we are having a three sphincter. This is between the pharynx and esophagus. This is between the stomach. You can see that at the last of the esophagus there is a stomach. So the cardiac sphincter is present in the mid between the stomach and the esophagus, and we are having a third sphincter, that is pyloric sphincter, that is at the last of the stomach. So here we are talking about the two sphincters. Okay, so through this, the peristalsis got occur, and the bolus will move downward to the stomach. Okay, so as you guys see that the vagal motor nerve will command, and the lower sphincter got relaxed as well. Okay, or relaxed or open when bolus is coming, and then they got constrict when the food is now in the stomach. Okay, so what if the peristalsis movement got opposite. Okay, how that the bolus is moving down and the peristalsis is moving down, is happening like that, and moving to the, and the bolus is now moving into the stomach. What if the peristalsis movement got anteriorly? Through this, the vomiting get start. We are having a vomitings. This is because of the antiperi, or you can say this is all because of the antiperistalsis movement of the, you can say that antiperistalsis movement. This is all, the vomiting occurs because of the and this is because the antiperistalsis movement, the movement got interiorly. That's why the peristalsis movement, antiperistalsis movement occur, and through this the vomiting will be occur. Okay, so this process is called the antiperistalsis. So through this the vomiting got started. So today we are done with the three stage: oral stage, pharyngeal, and esophageal. So in the next video we're talking about the stomach. Okay, so we are done with the, you can say that, uh, around the esophagus. We are done with the mechanism food of digestion. In the next video we're talking about the stomach, or structure of stomach.